So, okay, we'll just revise. Okay, before we get started, we'll just revise what we did last week and on Friday, and then refresh the memory, and then we'll go ahead. So we discussed about how Python works and what are the different types of languages, like interpreted languages and compiled languages, and about the data types and how can you mix and match the data types according to your requirements, and how to create a mental model and then start writing the data types, and conditionals, if else conditions, iterations, which is nothing but we learned about for loop. There is also while loop, but don't worry about it at the moment. But yeah, this is good enough. And we will learn about functions today. And then we also learned about user input using input function, and we learned about files, like it is on the hard disk, and how do you load it onto your program, and how to start reading it. And we also looked at an example, which is a JSON file. And we learned a little bit about Git. So Git is a source code management tool, a version control tool. And the documents that I'm publishing is on the GitHub repository. So you can actually clone the repository, and then you can modify the code, and you'll get a list of your modifications through the history, and then you can start doing that. We'll see that as we go today. And then today we will learn about functions, error handling, and an important library called as request library. So this week's goal would be to go to internet and fetch the news and probably weather, and then weather data, and then um, make text out of it, and then keep it ready for next module. So our overall goal is to create a subscription service which has news, weather, and other things, and which needs to be um, connected together, and then make a final project. So yeah, as you know, you don't have to remember all the syntax and understand every piece of code, but you need to use AI tools like the one we are using, GitHub Copilot, and then you should be able to understand the basic constructs of the program, so that you are in control of what is happening. Because of this automated code generation, which is now called as like vibe coding. People are writing code, but the thing is, you can get lost very easily. Like 2 3 days you like it, and then you get into that, and then what happens is on fourth day you get totally lost. Like, what did I want, and what it is producing, and you are unable to narrow it down, and uh, it, uh, so you won't be able to reach your goal. Okay, so that is the reason we are trying to understand how to design it first, and how to ask GPTs or code generation co-pilots in a way that you ask what you want, and you get what you want. So that is what we are going to learn, and we'll also learn about prompt engineering a little bit, which is useful for our coding. Okay, so I'll go to this examples. So all the comments that we saw in last class, you don't have to remember. You have an UI to do this, which you can use this to kind of do it on the UI. You don't have to type commands, git commit and git push and all these commands. You don't have to do that. So we will learn about functions. I'll just brief about functions. We'll come back to Git, and then we will see how it works. Uh, because last class was like mostly theory about Git. So if you haven't tried, you will learn it in some time. So what are functions? So any given programming language, right? So you can actually merge all the code, or you can start writing the code in one single file, and then create a binary of it out of it. But this creates a lot of problems because it is not modularized. You cannot have your mental picture and the code speak some are not hand in hand. So what we do generally in software is we create something called as design, which is like this. I'll give you some examples. So how we do it is, okay. So before coding, it's coding is one of the things that we do in entire software. But before coding, there are a lot of things that happens. For example, you get the requirements, and after requirements, it goes into like refining the requirements and so on. And second step is to understand or make it, understand its architecture. So here we just um, create some like boxes and connections to boxes and so on. Okay, so at this level you don't actually speak about what sort of language or what sort of tools that you are going to use and things like that. Uh, this is quite generic. This is quite generic. At this point of time we don't talk about like languages and tools. And next level is like we call it as like software design. So here we have two types of design. One is like high level design, and then other thing is called as also a low level design, LLD. So why is this required? Is, for example, we are trying to build project which has which is news subscription, right? So if you think about just in a layman terms of um, the project, so forget about the software. So how would you think about is like, okay, what are the things that I need, right? So the requirement is create a subscription project which can produce news, say weather and some tasks for the day and things like that based on your calendar. Okay, so these are the like basic requirements. So somebody who does not have any relationship with coding software, so he is your like customer, and then he gives your requirements. And next level is there is to bridge the gap between the software and the requirements. So in bigger companies, these guys are called business analysts. Okay, so they understand both the worlds of software and the business, and they break down the they bring the requirements and they break down the requirements to the next level. So there are as companies, the bigger the company, bigger, higher the levels, because yeah, there are a lot of people and there are a lot of processes involved. But this is like basic process. Most of the companies or most of the projects that people write. Okay. So architecture is where somewhere, okay, he understands, okay, I want to fetch the news, okay, from what sort of news, and where are the endpoints? Endpoints are nothing but where should I look from to fetch the news and so on. So probably he would, at an architecture level, he would do something like, okay, news. Okay, news should be fetched. This is a model. News should be fetched from, say, an endpoint. So this is called as an like endpoint because this is the source of your news, or you can source of the news or endpoint. So probably it is an internet. So he will define endpoints that, okay, how should you go to this endpoint? Say, for example, Times of India or Hindu or say, CNN, whatever news channels are, right? So they have their own websites, but you need to go there and fetch. So he thinks about like how do you fetch it and studies about that. So probably there are different interfaces. So just like you click on the browser and browser opens this thing, right? So you can use probably APIs. You can use say just the HTML scraping and so on. So this is one module. Okay, and then it goes on for every module. So okay, we will look at those modules later, but just to understand how the functions and modules work. So and then it comes to like design level. So at design level, what people do is, okay, break this down into further modules. So API and like HTML. So these are like probably two modules. So there are two ways to fetch the news. So somebody would write, take this and find out all the APIs, uh, and then like HTML module, and then break it down to understanding the structure and so on. So that is like high level design. So at this level, we will form a different set of documents. So those documents are, so at this level, at an architecture level, we call this an architecture document. And at this level, so we will call this as high level design document. And then what happens in low level design is, okay, at the level of data structures and how do you process. So people who are writing the code do this sort of exercise to break down the requirement so that there is no way that you don't drift away from the requirements. So all this process is done to achieve that goal. You should not drift away from the requirements, and there should be always cross checking with the requirements, so that your HLD and LLD are in line with the requirements. So when you start writing the modules, so as I was telling, you can actually write all the code in one single file, but there are multiple people working. Even if you're a single person who is working, you also need a mental picture about how do you go about segregating the code, so that if you modify one set of code, it does not affect the other side of the code. So that's one of the problems that we are solving. So let us take for an example, at API level, you have started developing something out of LLD, and then you break it down to finding out what libraries support, fetching the data from API. Probably it's requests, and what sort of news, that different sort of news that you're trying to fetch. Probably it is like world news, and then probably sports news, world politics, um, sports, and so on, stock market, and so on. So probably these are lying in a different page or different structure, and then you write different modules. Modules in terms of Python, it is all files. When you say a module, it's just like .py file, and then you create these modules, or you can also write functions. There is no nothing stopping that, but it's just a mental picture according to your convenience, and so that if you modify something here, this piece of code should not get affected. So uh, you can think of it as a like a blast radius. So if you modify something here, and there are several files or several other modules which are depending on this, so you reduce that blast radiations, in the sense that if something goes wrong here, this point should not get affected. So that is the reason we create modules and functions. Okay. So these are called like modular approach, and then you can also like scale for, the process to fetch more data from different news channels and so on. So its scalability comes into picture, and so on, error handling. So these are the advantages that you get when you break the code down to smaller pieces. So module is nothing but one single file in Python. So let us call it as, say, I'm going to write news.py. Okay, this is one module. So within that, I would probably want to write different ways to fetch the functions or fetch the news. Probably I will say within this, I'll write a small piece of code which fetches me say not weather, sorry, um, world news and probably sports news. So I will write a module which can fetch this separately. So I will write something called def fetch world news and then start writing the code. Okay. So there are no braces we use in Python. So we indent it and start writing. Okay. So we'll just look at how it looks, how the functions are um, written. It's a simple construct. So you can take um, the piece of code that you have written here, which is in the last class. So you can make say all these things. You can take. You can write one function. Def is it's already giving some suggestions. Def is a keyword which defines a function. So function has a like function name. You can name it anything, and then you have these braces. Within this, you can actually write some inputs that needs to be taken, because all these functions, for example, this is also a function. So this can take an input and then it does something. So it gives an output. So every function has this construct, function name, and some arguments. These are called arguments. And then it also has something which it can return some values. Okay. So currently I'll just put it as arguments. And you don't have to type in, but at the low level design, you need to define the arguments. For example, I will just undo this and ask AI to create a function for me, like modularize this uh, module with functions. So let us see what it does, and then try to understand what we studied. Okay. So it has produced something here. So let us try to paste it here. Okay, no need to copy paste. I'll just compare what is happening. So this particular construct, if name is equal to main, is nothing but, so if you are executing the current module, the name of the module is by default named as double underscore main. So it is possible that you write many modules and you call those modules into different files. For example, we took JSON dot py, so it is written somewhere else. So we imported that, right? So where is this path JSON? I think yeah. We did this, right? Import JSON. So this file is written somewhere, which is like installed in your libraries. It is named as json.py and it is imported here. So you are trying to use these functions. So the name of this module when you import here is won't be main, it will be JSON here. So when you execute only like json.py, its name will be main. So this is just to differentiate from where you are, which file you are executing, current file of execution. Okay. So this is how you, so this code does not get executed even when you import it. So I'll just show you what I mean, so this is one function. So it has modular as a function. So how it has modulars, we'll understand, and then we'll come back to this. So it has created a couple of functions. So get number of entries. So that is put here. So which is nothing but line number 7 in our loops.py. And then there is a function called as collect data. Let's see what it does. And you can see that once you call a function, you're also collecting something here. So which is the value returned by that function, and take that value, and probably you want to use that value and you call another function. This function is collect data. This is nothing but the for loop that we have written here. Okay. So you can put this into different functions. Similarly, display data, which is nothing but here, this one, display data. So you can actually, uh, ask GPTs to create a function, or you can also go and there is something called as a refactor, and you can create extract or create function. There is something like that. Okay, now since we have installed the Copilot, so it tells modify using Copilot and so on. Okay, but the overall idea is you can simply write your own function like def manually if you have to write def display data, and you can start writing your own function. Okay, so that is how you can modularize your code into functions. So functions has input and output, and you can have as many as arguments in that between those round braces, and then it returns something. So if it does not return anything, by default Python returns none. None is one of the data types that we looked at, right? So I'm going to delete all this, and I'm going to paste this here, insert. Okay, so about this. So let me create some file called as main.py. You can name it as anything. So I could call this import, and it was, I think, loops. Okay, import loops. And I'm going to execute this. So I'm going to press this. Okay. So as you can see, it is not saved. Kill this. So if you press Control C from any program which is under execution, it will exit. So that is called as an like interrupt. So you are sending some signal to the process which is running, and CPU understands that okay, this signal I need to stop executing it, and then operating system takes that process out of that context, which is like taking out that um, whatever allocated the memory that we have in the RAM, and then it releases that. Okay. So okay, coming back here, you can see that before saving the file, so it um, gave us this prompt, which is like it tried to execute something. It vanished. Okay, maybe it opened a new terminal. Okay. So okay, so we are trying to execute main.py, and the first line gets executed, and there is nothing here. So I'll just print so that okay. So these are uh, just two lines is enough. You can print anything like hi, hello, anything like that. Print program start, something like that. So you can see that it blurts out a lot of things. The Copilot, it suggests a lot of things. And most of the times what happens is you are like, you feel like taking the taking the input because you think it is like quite smarter than us, and then you try to take everything that it blurts out. Probably if you are if you have not planned before, or if you are not aware, you'll just take everything, and then the code becomes big and unmanageable, and then it's difficult to achieve the goal. So you need to be very cautious about what to take. So it's like so in the uh, when we were kids, there was only one channel like Doordarshan DD1. So we were waiting whole week to see one program like say Shaktiman or Jai Hanuman or Sri Krishna or whatever. So it's like, and then today what we have is like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and such streaming channels. And then we have got a lot of options. And most of the times, as you can see, that we spend more time in choosing the program than watching the program. Like you just keep browsing and watch 10 seconds, watch the trailer and keep executing it. Okay. So that is exactly what is happening for programmers at the moment. So far, before the Copilot came, uh, we knew exactly what to do, and then we sort of had the plan written down, and then start writing the program. So with this, now you have got a lot of choices, and you need to make a lot of decisions. This is one of the reasons that like programmers or anybody who is into programming, so you'll never go out of the job. Or so there is a popular this one, right? So software engineers won't be, or the coders won't be having any jobs. It's probably true that the only coders won't be having any jobs, but this is a tool which enables us to write code. So if you can narrow it down, and if you're good in designing in the beginning and exactly say what you want, so that is what is our new job now. So from the coding to generating the code and filtering out the code is what is our new job, which is nothing but whatever we have done so far is not going to be waste, right? If you're a tester engineering, or if you're embedded system engineer, so all these things um, helps us to write requirements and then deliver it faster and do additional things which are like doing amazing things, and then you can keep doing it for a longer time. So that's the I what do you say, the choices are more, and then it's you can get lost, just like Netflix and Doordarshan example. So be careful about these tools. And okay, let us get back to the functions. So I imported this. So if you look at loops, we have this statement. Let me just comment this statement. And once I comment, so I'll execute, there will be some problem, and then we'll understand what it is. So I put this main function back here, because if it's here, it thinks that I belong to this function. So I have put it here so that it get called. So I'm going to execute this. So now it is getting executed. So before commenting, it did not get executed. So that the reason is because the name of this module, when you're executing this particular file, sorry, let me execute. I'm executing the different file. I'm executing this. So I need to execute this. So I save it. So we are here, and let me execute main.py. So now it is asking for this one, right? So before we commented, it did not ask. That is because it looks at this condition. If my name, the current file name is not is if it is main, only then you execute this. Okay, so let us see what is the name of this module. How I already printing that? Let me press Control C. So that interrupt is called as keyboard interrupt. So when you press Control C, um, main.py, and how many people that are you want to enter this? I want to print in main.py. Okay, so this is what I want to execute, because it keeps switching the, when you click on the file, it keeps switching this. So it starts executing loops. So when you import, so one of the differences between other languages, like compiled languages, is it starts executing from this line number one, and it looks at the comment, it ignores this, it looks at the function, it does not execute, but it just creates an entry like a reference, and it looks at this and keeps on doing that. It does not get into this. It keeps an entry that this is a function, and it looks at this. We are coming line by line, and it does not execute this, but it has a reference of this, and it goes on for all of this, and then it hits this line, and then you go here. So since it has made a reference of this already, so now it knows, okay, where should I start again? So it starts from here. So this is a string. So this, you can see that there are triple quotes, which means you can write multi-line uh, strings, like you can keep writing. So So this is one of the ways to write documentations. So this is, so if there is a string right below the function, these are called doc strings. So doc strings are nothing but, I'll show you what doc strings are. So you have written something here. So you go here, and if you just hover on the main, you can see that you get a documentation, main function to run function, and then we put hi, hello, something like this, hi, hello. Okay. So yeah, so that is what a documentation string means. So just right below the function, you write a triple quoted string. It serves as a documentation for other programmers or for yourself. So once you like kind of forget and come back to this function, you can see what it is doing. Okay. So that is about the doc strings, and it has started executing this particular function, right? So it goes on here, and once I'll just enter something here, name of the person, and it is something. Okay, the program has finished. Okay, so you can see that these particular prints that we have put are these lines. So these prints are coming from this module. Okay. So you can see, let us look at the name of the function here, name of the module. So this is a module, and dot double underscore name gives uh, the name of that particular module. So if you look at this line number 3, soon after the program started print, the name of this is loops, not main. So let us also print current file. So I'll execute this again. Name, so sorry, not file, it's name. So this name is nothing but my current file name. So which is, or not file name, but the module name. So which is main.py. So let us look at how it is different from this. So I'll start executing the same thing again. I'll just give some name and some value. You can see that the name of this particular main module is double underscore main. So even if you have different name here, not main.py, something like session.py or anything like that. So the name is main.py. So don't confuse with this file name, but the current execution of program. So when you try to get the module's name, will be main. So when you trigger it, so that is where you differentiate. Um, if you import something, don't start executing it. You know, by the place where it's triggered. So if I put it back here, now you'll be seeing a different output. So let me start executing this. So now you can see that it imported loops, but it did not start executing this particular line, which calls our functions and get the numbers and all this. Internally, it calls multiple functions. This function calls this function, this function, this function, and so on. And display data calls print function and so on. So there is like several um, levels of functions that is getting called. Okay, so yeah, the reason that this did not get executed is because this condition did not satisfy. The current name of this function is not main. So what is the name of this particular module when you have imported is print. I'm going to print something. A program started, but it is loops.py. Okay, so I'm going to print this, and which gets executed when you import. So I'm coming here, and you can see that program started loops.py, which we are printing it, so that we can look at this line number 30. So you can see that the name of this module is not main, but it's loops. So you can see when you import, so the name of the program changes to whatever you have named it as, like import loops. So the name of the program is loops. So that is the reason this is like a safety check, so that you don't execute it. So most of the modules, if you develop and if you want to test it, so if you just want to execute just loops.py, so I'm going to execute just loops.py here. Now it gets executed. So when you go to that particular file and execute that particular file, so this condition matches. The name of the module is not loops, but it is main now. So this condition matches, and this function gets called, which is like it calls multiple functions within which we can do things. So okay. So you can look at this. So that is the reason that we use this particular constructor. So that is about functions, and you can read a lot about functions. There are more capabilities into functions. So you can actually pass dictionaries, any sort of variable arguments. For example, this particular function main or get number of entries, or you can also take like one argument, and you can take like n number of arguments. This is called as variable arguments and so on. So you're as you go, you can just ask and generate the code, but this is something which you need to be aware of. So once you have written this function, written these modules, uh, loops.py, main.py, and now you're connecting the modules, right? So in main, you're calling loops.py. So within loops.py, you have further modularized your code, so that when you change something here, uh, so some function which is which is common for everything does not get affected. So you can simply change this to display data with say a different format or something like that. So for example, if I want to display some report here, and my imagine that particular this print statement is there in multiple places. So all the functions. So if you do not have a function, you'll have to make 10 changes, because say if you're generating 10 reports, if you'll have to make 10 changes. But if you just parameterize it and then make it a function, if you change it in one place, that will reflect in multiple uh, places, because the same function gets called. So that is the advantage of having the function. So what you're trying to do is you're reducing the number of lines of code, and um, so as you reduce the number of lines of code, your area of error prone code is also getting reduced, and you can fix those errors in that function, which you don't have to fix in all the modules or all the places that error is there. So that is one of the use cases of having the functions. Okay. Okay. So that is about functions. So let us learn about the request library. So there is a library called as requests. So why we are trying to learn request library is we are going to fetch something from the internet, and we'll see how it is done. So I'm going to import requests. Okay. Well, so it is already installed here. Uh, so I'll just do pip visit there. So I have installed the request module so that I can demonstrate what happens when you don't have a module. So I'm going to name this as news.py. Just a module name, and which can use import requests. Okay. So this is one of the popular libraries which can work with internet. Okay. So I'm going to print something so that fetching. You can see that just by looking at the module name. So Copilot is trying to guess what this file does. So which is correct for us. Okay. So just I'm accepting that changes, and I'm going to execute this. So either if you're working with ID, you can press this, or you can go here and you can do the same thing. Okay. So news.py. Okay. You can see something is happening here. So it says module not found and no module called as requests. So if you go to your the internet where all the Python packages are there. So there are like several modules that is written, and then you can download them. So how do you download them is using a tool called pip. Pip is Python package installer or something like that, install package, something like that. So if you do not have alias created, it says command not found, and pip3 is like new version which is in line with Python 3, and you can install the modules. I'll just show you how to install modules. So you can say pip. So you don't have to remember the commands. So you can say, in fact, this is in ask mode. If you put it in agent mode, you can, I think, install request library. Okay. So let's see how if it does something. So, yeah, you can see that this is called as an agent mode. So the difference between the agent mode and the ask mode is like just it suggests that okay, these are the things that you can modify and you can ask questions. It generates the code and things like that. So what agent mode does is it comes up with um, the commands that can be executed on your terminal, and it can work independently, and it asks whenever it is trying to make changes via the commands, it asks for confirmation. And I just asked, install request library. So the other way to install is to go to terminal and type the command and do it, right. So, but in agent mode, you are giving the permission, or you're generating the command. It generates the command, and then you just need to accept it. So let me try what it does, and I'll tell you what is happening. So now it is telling that, okay, it seems that pip is not there because I have not I have installed, but I have not set the path into the commands. So pip3 is what I use. So now it is actually going and seeing why this is not working. So it looks that it is actually doing all these things, and it is giving different suggestions. And once the pip is available, you can do this. Okay, so I'm going to tell use pip3 instead of pip. So if pip is installed, you can actually do the same thing. And also you can use Python -m, that thing also. I don't want you to remember the commands, but yeah, you can ask in the agent mode, and then you can say do it. And you can see that it is beautifully completed the uh, installation of the package. So let me just show you what it did. So I was going to type this particular command. So, but I wanted to show how you can use agent mode and do it. And you can see that collecting the requests from some place, and then it is installing something. So every library that you are downloading has different dependencies, and it checks the dependencies. If that dependency package is not there already, it will install the package. So this is a default location on my MacBook, where it gets installed. But on Linux, maybe it is in user /lib and other places. In Windows, it's probably program files and other places. But you don't have to worry about this because it is taken care by the installer itself. So where are these libraries present, right? So these are present in, if you go here and packages or request, package requests, okay, something like this. So you can look at this. So this website, which is pypy.org, hosts um, all these libraries, and you can search for any package. For example, I want to do some image processing. Python packages package for image processing. Okay. So OpenCV is one of them, and you read about that, so that it tells. So now you can say that, okay, Python OpenCV library. Okay, OpenCV library. So if you look at this, OpenCV is also hosted here. And so what people are doing is just like people like you and me, the developers who are interested to develop and contribute to the open source. So they develop the library, they make sure that things are working, and then they actually all put all this code into a common repository, and probably it is also available in GitHub. You can look at the code and all these things. Okay. So then they come up with the document how to use it, like this, and then this is a foundation which hosts the so if there is like criteria, like it's like you have to make sure that the tests are working, make sure that it does not break the code and all these things, and then it's like a product that you're deploying here. Okay. So similarly, just like this requests is also one of the libraries. So you can, if you look at requests, so you can also see what it does. Requests allow you to send HTTP requests and so on. Okay. So what is an HTTP request? Is nothing but when you open the browser, right? So you open any page, for example, this. So it defaults to Google. So you can go here just for your experimentation. You can go to inspect and probably you can go to just to look at what are the requests that goes on the network. Okay, so all the entire internet is powered by HTML, which is the hypertext markup language. It's not a full-fledged language. It is sort of it helps you to look at web pages. And second thing is JavaScript. So there is no other language which has or which has come closer to replacing JavaScript because of the history. So internet was when the internet all these pages like dynamic pages started coming. So JavaScript did that, and even though there are like so many languages, so still it is difficult to replace JavaScript because of the because one thing is it's working fine. Second thing is um, it is so huge that it's very difficult to replace. So everything that you see on internet is one is cascading style sheets, which is called as CSS, and HTML and JavaScript. Now you might be thinking that okay, why there are languages like React and Value.js and so on. So all these are not languages, but these are the frameworks which can generate JavaScript. So if I want to make a beautiful UI, so React has its own way to do and so on. Okay. So everything that you see here on the internet is just HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Okay. So that's a brief about it. And what when you right click and inspect element, if you go to network, so you can see the request that is going on between your laptop or your computer and the server laptop. So let us just by something like this. I'm going to click on this. So I sent a request. So when you type something here, what happens is you send HTTP request. HTTP is nothing but a protocol, and then the end server, which is nothing but the pypi.org where it is hosted. So we are asking that give me some information about this. So this is the reason that is this particular thing is called as URL is because it is you are trying to locate a resource in other server. For example, on my laptop, I have so many files, pictures, and so on, but it is not accessible to the network, right? So if I want to host these pictures and these documents, so I need to create a server and then host these files into the server so that others can access this. So, but they also need, like, for example, I create a website called as digant.org, and maybe I host in certain page that, okay, in slash files, these are the files that can be accessible. So that is what they have done internally. And then that is the reason that is called as universal resource locator, because that's a resource. Okay. So this all these files that you're seeing is a resource. Okay. I'll just take one of this thing and I'll show you what does HTTP request mean. So when you send a request to any website, it gives some response. So if you want to look at the protocols, so go to headers and you can see that request method. So what is this request method is of type HTTP. So that is the reason you tell HTTP, right? So that is the protocol. So why there are protocols? It's a big concept, but in short, you have hardware on top of hardware, you have operating system running and so on, right? So the hardware layer is at the hardware level, you can just understand the signals, like we call it as ones and zeros, right? And then you have some protocol to understand or process that ones and zeros, and then you have one more layer and so on. So that one of the layers which is at the top of the this one is called as application layer, which is one of them is like HTTP. Okay, so HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Why it is called as hypertext? Because it is not just a normal text. It has something more features to it. For example, you can like it is bold. It has its own um, font and so on. Okay, so you can see that there are multiple uh, functionality or interfaces that you can do through the HTTP. One of them is get. We can also do put, patch, and so on. So what does this mean? Is okay. You send a function, and there are some other parameters. These are like function arguments. You can think of it, but this is operating between two different computers. So people have defined the protocol and what needs to go in and what needs to come out. So this particular response is a HTML content. So that is what you see on the browser. So browser is a program which actually understands this format and presents to the normal users. But if you're writing programs and if you're without browser also you can access the internet, right? So you can have a module which can send a request, send the same request that we are sending here, which is a get, and you can actually get this HTML page. Okay. So let us take this URL. I'm copying this URL. Now let us try to access this using in a programming way using Python. So we have just installed uh, Python request library, right? And okay, I have taken that URL and I'm going to ask Copilot, where is the Copilot? Oh, here. Okay. This Copilot is in agent mode now. I'm going to ask it now. Now you have got fair understanding of like how communication between two servers work over the HTTP. Like this is like probably 10,000 feet view of how things work. This is just as simple as calling a function, but you are calling a function which is on the other computer. So this all functions and this request all comes under, you can bunch it together called as inter-process communication. So IPC. So so this is a process which we are writing program, and the server which is on the other side is also a process. So processes are communicating. So if you just search for inter-process communication, and there is also like network communication. One of the network under the network communication, HTTP is one of the ways to communicate. So I'm going to ask the agent, which is GitHub Copilot agent. I want to uh, fetch data uh, from below URL using request library. Uh, okay, that's all. Okay, so I'm going to ask it. Let's see what it comes up with, and then we'll try to understand what it. So you can see that in agent mode. So when I was in ask mode, so it did not do anything to the file directly. But in agent mode, you can see that it has gone to this particular file. That particular file, it has got a context here, which file I'm already executing, and it has just modified the changes already. Okay, and then you can actually go here and accept this change, and you can see that there is something um, here. Okay, so you can see that this module that we have downloaded just now can be imported, import requests. And let me just execute this. Okay. In fact, you can execute in the agent mode as well. I'm going to execute it directly here. you can see that it has executed. So it is using the absolute path, that's all. Or else you can simply write Python 3 and directly use news.py. But it is using absolute path. So that is the reason command is looking longer. Fetching news articles and data fetched successfully. So where is this coming from? Fetching news at line number 2. And you can see that this part, it is checking for the status code. So just like uh, functions, right? You have a function and you are calling another function. You are calling this request, and there is some function within that particular module, and it gets, which is nothing but what we did here on the browser, right? So this is how you can map your mental picture that, okay, you have opened this file, sorry, this URL on the um, on any browser, and in the backend, browser sends this request. So somebody has written a program, right? So maybe it is in C++ or whatever the language it is. So when you download on the Chrome or Edge or whichever it is, so it knows how to send the request. So it has formed UI where you can type in something, but exactly same thing is happening here using our Python program of here. Okay. Request.get. So this get is nothing but, where is this? This request method. And status code, there are several status code. You can read about it. We'll also know more about it. Status code is like with a return value, you also get status code if it's, because you can get multiple return values. For example, if that file is not found, maybe return value is actually telling that file is not found, but status code will be different. Probably it is 404 or something like that. Okay. So if you type some URL, some gibberish URL, HTTPS dot something like this, you can see that this site cannot be reached. So if you look at, go to inspect, go to network, and I'll just refresh so that I can, once you refresh, it sends the fresh request. Okay. So if you go look at this, so send something. Okay, here. Okay. So browser has sent, is trying to access this URL, and if you look at the response, it is, you're not getting anything. Okay. So there is no resource given with this identifier. So there are several levels. For example, if there is this, I'm going to paste here. So now we know that you can reach till here. I'm going to access something like this. And okay, it is blotting out a lot of things. So you can see that we looked everywhere, but we cannot find this page on the UI. So the corresponding, this one is this. Okay. So 232, it is trying to get that particular resource, which maybe it's a file or image or something else. You can see that the status code, you actually get some response, which is this, but the status code is different, 404 not found. Okay, so this is what, or this is the reason that we use status codes along with the return as well. So you have valid return, which is a text, but uh, its status is not found. It's a different status code. Okay, so every request has a URL, and then okay, URL and the status code. So 200 stands for everything is okay. So, and then you can print. So this print, the text that we are printing, we are just printing the like 500 characters. So you can access using list, like using the list sort of a construct, and you're just printing 500 characters because it will just write everything, blur it out everything on the terminal, and we won't be able to make out anything. Okay, so it says data fetch successfully, and then you can see that this is HTML page, which is exactly the same thing that we saw on the browser. So this is how you use the request library. Okay, yeah, we are like 7 minutes after the 8 o'clock, but yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, now today we learned about like agent mode and requests the libraries, how you can download the libraries and things like that. And yeah, you can actually do some hands-on with this and try to understand what is happening with the backend, because this can actually, agent mode can actually do a lot of things, and this is just one single file. You can develop apps altogether. For example, yeah, if you can stay for like 1 minute, I'll just show you. You can go to like wipe coding, uh, websites like this. So you can write something like, um, I want to develop, um, develop, um, say, calculator. This is a small app, but a calculator app. Uh, no sign, no scientific calculation, just the rhythm. Okay. So this is a cloud editor. So there are several of them these days. So this is one of the lovable.dev. So you can see that this is by default agent mode. So this tries to try out features by itself. It is creating the features, and then it is trying to decide default styles and all these things. So you can see that you can also see what it is doing. Okay. So it is producing a lot of code, and it is modifying and things like that. So you can also go here, and I think you can open the preview. You can see that with just one line, you are able to create an app. Okay, something like, okay, equal to 48. Yes, it works for like simple this one, and then divided by 52, something like this. Okay, which is just within one line you are able to create a calculator here. Okay, so there are several apps like this. There is also called something called as Replit and so on. You can just ask ChatGPT to produce a list of vibe coding tools, and this is one of them. So this is so I don't know even ABCD of like these scripts. I don't even know what does this TSX stands for. Probably TypeScript or something like that. But I'm able to create the app. Okay, so this is a fairly simple app. So where this works. Okay, but if you want to create something like you want to, which is in your domain. For example, I want to write a face recognition app. That's it. That is one of the basic things. But I want also some sort of gestures, and I also want to find out if he is native of this country or not, just like China has. So this has multiple modules, right? Because you need to connect it to the database and find out it's something like similar to like Aadhaar, and find out whether he's a resident of this country and so on. Okay, so that is where the complexity grows. But the well-tested and developed modules, just like calculator and face recognition and so on. So these, instead of becoming development hurdles, now this became development tools, and you can simply ask your GPTs and copilots to do that. If you're in agent mode, you can create big project and develop amazing things. But the first thing that you need to have is mental clarity, that which we discussed initially: architecture, low level design, like high level design, and then you need to have mental picture and only then start doing this, or else you'll totally get lost. Okay. Yeah, so that's about today's class, and you can have fun with agentic mode. Okay, and then yeah, try to do something, and then if you have any doubts or if you have something interesting to share, please do it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Have a great day. Yeah. Thanks for spending more time. Yeah. See you tomorrow.